Hello, I'm Carlene Rhodes, President and CEO of Minnesota Philanthroy Partners. Welcome to our Who Inspires Us video series, where we interview leaders who are making a difference in our communities. Today I'm interviewing Reatha Clark King, a locally and nationally recognized philanthropic and educational leader who served as president of the General Mills Foundation for 14 years. Welcome, Reatha.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you're here.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
You've been a chemist, a professor, a college president, the head of a major corporate foundation. Could you tell me what you think the common thread is in all those roles that you've played?
I would say, Carlene, that the common thread is commitment to excellence, and insisting on doing work that you enjoy and doing it well. Those are the common threads.
You grew up a long way away from Minnesota in rural Georgia in the 40s, and I understand that you worked in the fields and on your aunt's farm. Were there any early kind of learnings in your growing up years that really have influenced you over time?
Yes, there were many, and I think, believe it or not, they were not the academic learnings that I gained early on that influenced me so much. It was the personal development and style. They were stylistic, and learning values. They were values. Learning to love working hard and learning to do well whatever you did. Now, from my literary grandmother, I learned at age 2 that if anything is worth doing, it's worth doing well. So my passion for excellence, my pursuit of excellence, and insistence on quality, that was learned naturally because I learned it so early in life from our community people. They had an expression, don't have to do anything. And now that doesn't sound like it's good English, but we got the point.
Well, and I know a lot about how you've stood out in the community, and it's really a lot about caring for other people, stepping in. I mean, it's not just an excellent job, but it's really a strong passion for the people.
Absolutely. We learned early on that caring for each other made a difference to our community. And if you were born a Baptist, like I was, you know that you learn caring for each other is important for your own development, your spiritual development, as well as your community well-being. So caring, and sharing. Sharing, which is a carryover to philanthropy, my philanthropic spirit.
Well, I know part of your preparation for life started when you were 4 years old in your first educational situation. I understand it was a one-room school that the Mount Zion Baptist Church hosted. Tell us a little bit about how that sparked your love of education.
Oh, that was such a wonderful experience because, first of all, we had a teacher, tremendous teacher named Miss Florence Frazier, who was such a role model for us. She was well-spoken, as we would say today, fun, and very observant about us young people, especially those of us who had leadership qualities. We not only learned the subjects well, learned whatever she taught us, like myself at 4 years old, but we could teach other children. Now, in that one-room schoolhouse, with all 7 grades being taught by one teacher, Ms. Frazier, she would work with a group of students, and then she would put the smarter students in charge of another group of students to help them learn their ABCs, their multiplication tables, whatever she wanted us to share with them. So Miss Frazier became our advocate. We use that word today, our advocate. And she was a mentor, but we didn't use that fancy word then.
Right.
She just encouraged us.
Well, Miss Fraser put you on a path, and you actually ended up graduating from your high school as valedictorian, and you went on to Clark College. And that was at a time when not a lot of women went to college, and definitely not a lot of women of color went to college. You know, in addition to Miss Fraser, what helped you get on that path? How did you get to that place?
Well, it was a determination, desire for better work with better pay. That was a driving force. But Ms. Frazier there did something else for me as a girl student, and she raised expectations of me to perform and to try different fields. The stereotypes for women then, as you implied, were different. She was going against the odds by encouraging me as a woman to study different subjects, to do different things. The problem was we were told what we shouldn't do. We shouldn't study chemistry. We shouldn't study the sciences. We shouldn't commit ourselves to a long period of study for a career because we should be looking to get a husband. We should be going out trying to marry. So, as my aunt told me, no man would want a woman with more education than he has. So Miss Frazier raised expectations, and those expectations and my belief in her helped me look aside from the don'ts that I was receiving because I was a woman, because I was an African American or a colored person back then, which we would call. So we call that succeeding against the odds, but who helps you do that? Ms. Frazier planted some seeds to help me do that.
So before you worked at General Mills, you worked in science and business and academia. Is there something that philanthropy can learn from those other fields of work?
Yes. Well, first of all, I would say the analytical approach of a chemist. Okay. Philanthropists are presented with situations, and your first task is to understand that situation surrounding the donee, a potential donee or applicant. And so chemists break apart the elements of a situation, and then we can put them all together again. So that's analyzing. You analyze. Sure. So and then in business, I'm reminded of a quality that you need, or an attribute that you need so much, and that is that of accountability. Now, that's important for any field. Certainly, you learn that as a university president. Right. The president is accountable, has to be prepared to be accountable in every situation, particularly if it's controversial. Sure. And that's a lonely seat. So that's another quality required for strong leadership, taking the heat and being accountable. Coming to philanthropy, you're all of those. It takes all of those qualities to succeed. But there's another quality that stands strong, high in philanthropy, and that is stewardship. You are a steward over key resources that have been that you are trusted with managing and leading others to use well. So that word stewardship stands, I think, is a very strong attribute that's needed to be a successful philanthropy.
You know, I think all of us who are Minnesotans are so proud of the traditions of philanthropy, corporate and individual, et cetera. Yes. What do you think we need to do today to make it even stronger, or to keep it strong and make it stronger? The demands have grown. I mean, there's a lot of ways philanthropy could meet community needs. How do you have thoughts about how we might make it even stronger?
First of all, I think we have to keep tweaking how we do philanthropy. So this is how we use these philanthropic resources that we are stewards over. And we still have that word stewardship over the resources that we have. That's so important. How to do that well going forward. I think there's some key words we have to keep in mind, key principles, Colleen. One, we want to use the resources to catalyze. We want the use of the resources to be a catalyst for progress by people. Secondly, we want to work toward total engagement by the community as much as possible, bringing new ethnic groups into participation, for example, the Hmong people, the Somalian people, as well as the African Americans, the Hispanics, the Latinos, and new immigrants yet to arrive, I'll put it that way. Be open-ended about that. Philanthropy, philanthropic institutions, and by use of philanthropic resources contributed by others, we can be the watch for that kind of broad community engagement, and help motivate others to help it happen. I'm an inclusive person. I love, and I think if we want to tap into the brains, the strengths, and to be a catalyst for progress everywhere, then we got to engage the community broadly. So thirdly, I think we're going to, philanthropy is a perfect enterprise, an institutional resource for some activism, not only to identify the problems that exist, but to be, and to be a catalyst once you identify the solution, but to be activists, to be a leader, to step forward and say, hey, let's get our heads together and to convene people. I use that word activist sort of mildly. You can see I'm tiptoeing around it, because I don't think the Internal Revenue Service wants us to use the philanthropic resources to lobby other people. Lobby is too strong a word. But along with good leadership and futuristic leadership comes some activism, because philanthropists have a knowledge base that should enable them to see further into the future than other people. So I don't see anything wrong with sharing with others what you see in the future. And I don't think there's anything wrong with picking up the telephone and saying, we just got to do something about this.
This has been a great conversation. I'm going to ask you one final question. We've had such a good conversation about your passion for education and philanthropy. What else should we know about what you care about?
Sharing is a spirit that I developed early on in my impoverished community, when community people would share with each other. We didn't have the money to share, but when the lady next door came in from the next farm and asked my mother if she could borrow a cup of meal or borrow 2 eggs, or they had a way of sharing in-kind resources they had. And that spirit, to a desire to share whatever extra that you have.
I think that's our challenge today, don't you? To continue to figure out how we share what we have to make our community strong.
Now, without philanthropic organizations or institutions, I think we have to get the word out that it's not just sharing money, but it's sharing knowledge, it's sharing insights, sharing information. If we were to make a list of the assets we have to use to make situations stronger, that list would extend far beyond dollars.
Well, I want to thank you, Reatha, for sharing so much today. It's been really wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
You bet.